The Lakers are terrible. And I'm not just saying that just because they have a 2-9 record, which that is mostly the reason. But LeBron is 37 years old and he's starting to decline. They still got Rob Pelinka in there making wild mistakes and signing crazy vet minimums for no reason that doesn't help the team. And they still got Russell Westbrook, who's trying to do the best he can, but he's still a brick machine. But we're not just going to talk about them today. Today we're talking about somebody else. We're going to get into AD and why he deserves to be traded. I know we're talking about AD right now, but I want to start this video off by giving all the basics of what's going on with the Lakers as a whole right now. The Lakers are the worst team in the West currently with a 2-9 record at the time of this recording. They're the worst shooting team in the league in terms of shooting percentage. They're the third worst team in the league in terms of offense. They're the 24th best team in the league defensively, which is still bad. They're getting outscored by 8.3 points per night on average, which is crazy when you think about it. So that's just the average. So a lot of these nights, they're getting blown out by double digits at least. So let's be real. The Lakers aren't having a good year as a whole. They didn't have a good year last year. They signed all these vet minimums in the offseason thinking that was going to do something. They didn't end up trading Russ, which with the Pacers trade with the Buddy Hield and Miles Turner, and if you had to give up an extra first round pick for later on, that's worth it to contend with LeBron. You gotta remember, the Lakers aren't chasing the playoffs, they're not chasing the play-in, they're chasing a championship. So what they doing with these vet minimums and these role players and not trading Russ, I believe was honestly a mistake. And they're reaping the consequences right now. AD is a big part of what's going on with them, but as of right now, the pieces around him doesn't help. LeBron is in a decline, so it's not he hasn't fell off a cliff yet. He hasn't done the Max Kellerman yet, but at the same time, LeBron's clearly not the best player he was in 2018. So AD has shown consistently that he's not that guy that he used to be anymore. And I don't just say that because of the skill. He still has that skill. He still can do it. But I say that mostly because of the mental imp that he has. He's not as aggressive as a scorer. And on top of that, he can't shoot anymore. He lost his shooting touch. Kind of like a Draymond Green. When Draymond Green used to be an okay shooter, at least. Draymond Green used to be able to knock down open shots. But AD can't even knock down open shots anymore. He can't space the floor at all. And I realize that he also isn't the same player defensively that he used to be. When we used to talk about AD, we used to talk about how great he was defensively and how he's a defensive player of the year candidate every year. But as of right now, AD's nowhere near defensive player of the year candidate. And he isn't as good offensively. So this superstar label that we've been placing on AD that we're expecting from him, because we've seen it in the Pelicans days and we've seen it in his first year with the Lakers, we got to get rid of that right now. He is not a top 10 player. He's just not. He's not a top 10 player anymore. If you ask me, he's barely a top 20 player. But he can still contribute to a championship winning team, but we can't expect him to be the best player on the Lakers anymore. And honestly, even as the second best player on the Lakers, it's pretty iffy right now. Especially with LeBron. LeBron's still a top 10 player. He's still, even though he's declining, LeBron's still clearly a top 10 player. But we can't say the same thing about AD. And the stats prove this. When you look at how AD played in the 2020 regular season, he averaged about 26 points, 9 rebounds, and 2 blocks per game on 50, 33, and 85. Which is, that's the AD that we've seen in New Orleans, and that's the AD that we were used to seeing every year. And of course, he was amazing defensively that year. But he performed even better in the playoffs, putting up 28 points, 10 rebounds, and 3 blocks per game on 57, 38, and 85 splits. When it's crazy to think about AD shooting 38% when you look at him today. He's just not that guy anymore. He just can't do it anymore, which we've seen so many times. And you gotta think, AD was a two-way monster. AD was doing that consistently. Like, he was when we looked at who was going to be the best player in the league, we was going Giannis, we was going AD, we was going guys like that. We was comparing him to Giannis at one point, and comparing AD to Giannis now is crazy. So he went from doing that to becoming a completely different player after the 2020 year. And when you look at the numbers from 2020 to the current season, at the time of this recording, AD averages about 23 points, 9 rebounds, and 2 blocks on 53, 23, and 73 splits, which is completely abysmal. That's crazy. You shouldn't be doing that as a second, even as the second best player on the team. That's not something that we should be seeing out of you. That's completely unacceptable, bro. And if you look at the 2021 playoffs, which is the last time we've seen the Lakers in the playoffs, AD averaged about 17 points, 7 rebounds, a block and a half on 40, 18, and 83 splits. 40, 18, and 83 splits. Imagine going from 38% to 18% from the three-point line. That's crazy. That's a clear decline. And AD was nursing a groin injury that year, so he gets a little bit of a pass, but that further proves my point on why you got to get AD out of there. Is because he's not consistently there. You can't depend on AD to be there consistently. And he wants to talk about how the Suns got a pass from him being hurt, but bro, it's been 2 years since then, and you still hurt. You still not playing, which we can't blame you for. I understand you can't control it, but it is what it is, bro. You can't say that the Suns got a pass because you were hurt, but you're consistently hurt. They didn't get a pass. That's what we can expect out of you. The Lakers gave up mad young players in draft capital to get AD. When they did the trade with the Pelicans, it ended up being AD for Brandon Ingram, Lonzo Ball, CJ McCollum, Josh Hart, Jackson Hayes, Herbert Jones, Dyson Daniels, Garrett Temple, a 2023 first-round draft pick swap, and a 2024 second-round pick. That's what the Pelicans ended up getting at the end of the day. And that's crazy when you look at what AD is doing right now. That's a crazy return for giving up what you gave up for AD. And if y'all remember that trade, the Pelicans was holding out until they could get everything from the Lakers. They wanted everything. They wanted all the picks. They wanted all the young talent. And they got that, bro. They got that. And when you look at what Brandon Ingram ended up being, and when you see how those draft picks ended up, turning out with Dyson Daniels and Herbert Jones, they got a crazy return. And they did lose Lonzo Ball to the Bulls. But even after losing Lonzo to the Bulls, the Pelicans are looking like a contender this year. And the Lakers are one of the worst teams in the league. And it's crazy to think that you would at least hope the Lakers would have a chance at Victor Wembanyama. But even then, they don't have a chance for Victor Wembanyama because the Pelicans have the rights to swap their picks. So even if the Lakers did get the number 1 pick, that's a Pelicans pick. And the Pelicans with Victor Wembanyama, it'll be over. They'll be the best team in the league for years to come. But this isn't a video about the Pelicans. This is a video about the Lakers, unfortunately. So when you look at how the Lakers can't control any of their picks until 2027, they literally have no way to rebuild their team with young assets and with young players. So the Lakers are essentially done for. They really have no way to improve the team drastically unless they trade AD, which is what this video is about. They have no young guys that fit LeBron, nor do they have anything to develop for the future. So either way, they're not in a good position. So they have terrible depth, and y'all need to give LeBron another chance at winning a ring, bro. Y'all got no depth, y'all got no young players, y'all don't have anything, y'all got no shooting. So trading AD is the only way to give y'all wiggle room to still be able to improve that team around LeBron. And when it comes to Russell Westbrook, people are saying to trade him, but at the same time, even if you were to trade Westbrook, you're still in a weird predicament because you're having to give up another draft pick to go get better, which in my opinion is still worth it, but you don't want to have to give up that draft pick, even because in 2027, who knows if LeBron's going to be on the Lakers anymore. So you have to really weigh your options. If you were to trade AD instead, you won't be having to give up any draft capital because AD is a significant better player than Russell Westbrook right now. Even though he's not a great player, he's not a superstar at the moment. So, yeah, man, y'all gave up so much to get AD. Y'all got to recoup some of them assets. Y'all got to recoup some of that depth. Y'all got to really give y'all some wiggle room to be able to build a better team around LeBron, because this AD and LeBron duo is not going to win you another championship. Let's just be real about it. It's not going to happen. I know I said they need to trade AD, but what can they really get for him? And even though AD's value has took a dip, it took a big dip, I feel like he's still a good enough player to where you can get something that'll give you some wiggle room to build around him. So the trade package requirements I put together was, one, you got to get a decently young all-star-like player. So you got to get someone. You don't got to get another superstar. We're beyond the days where you need the second player to be a superstar. You need him to be an all-star-like player. He can give you all-star performances consistently. The second requirement is you need to get a 3-and-D guy that fits with LeBron, or 2 if you can. It depends on how that team values AD, because if they value him a little bit more, you might be able to get a couple of those guys back to, the Lakers. 3, you need to recoup some assets by getting either a project guy with potential, and you need to get at least 1 first-round draft pick or 2. Like I said, it's the same thing. It depends on how that team values AD. So a decently young all-star-like player, a 3-and-D guy that fits with LeBron. You need a project guy, a young project guy that has some potential, and you need to get a first-round pick or 2 back. So those trade package requirements, I don't think is a crazy, it's not a crazy package to ask a team for a player like AD, especially considering what, the Nets got for James Harden, which it looks like both of those teams lost that trade. But even then, they still got a pretty good return for James Harden, whose trade value did dip that year also. So let's get into the mock trade that I got for y'all. I did put together a mock trade with some of these trade requirements on there, or not even some of the trade requirements. All of them are on there. So the team that I got that I felt like made the most sense for both teams was a trade between the Mavs, and where the Lakers get Christian Wood, Tim Hardaway Jr., Josh Green, a 2024 first-round unprotected draft pick, and a 2027 lottery-protected first-round pick. And the Mavs obviously get Anthony Davis, and they only get Anthony Davis unless the Lakers want to throw in a second-round pick to kind of sweeten the deal for them. But yeah, man, I think that both teams win in this situation. The Mavs already have Christian Wood, who, even with AD not playing to his standards that he used to be able to play to, AD's still a better player than Christian Wood in my opinion. That Luka and AD pick and roll with AD healthy will be lethal, and that makes the Mavs championship contenders, if you ask me. Even if they don't get to it this year, going into the future, they can get to it the next year by putting a couple pieces around it. Maybe if AD does a little too much to their depth, they'll still have Luka and AD, and they can get some guys around them, maybe some more shooting. And even after this trade, the Mavs have mad shooting. They're still going to have guys that can, you can kick it out to, and they can knock down the open 3. So even if the Mavs wouldn't contend this year, they will contend for years to come. The Lakers win because they get a little bit more depth in there. They get some youth in there. They get a couple of, draft picks, to recoup some of what they lost in that Pelicans trade, and what they lost in the Dennis Schroeder trade, and what they lost in the Russell Westbrook trade. So they get Christian Wood, who's an AD-like guy, who's not as good, but he can at least knock down open shots, and he can space the floor. And you could depend on him on the 9-in and 9-out basis, who's an all-star-like player. You get Tim Hardaway Jr., who's a professional scorer. He can also knock down, from the 3-point range. And, he's pretty consistent, even though he is coming off of an injury. So that's why I threw him in the trade, because Tim Hardaway Jr., we don't know for sure if he's going to be the same as he used to be. But he is pretty reliable, and he's still going to be a pretty good player for you. You get Josh Green, who is that project guy who, if you watch Josh Green, he doesn't put up crazy stats, but he is a guy that he can knock down open shots here and there. He's an athletic guard. He's a slasher. So Josh Green is a project guy that if things go right, if Josh Green fulfills his potential, he can be a really good player for you. And then you get a 2024 unprotected draft pick, which you wouldn't be able to cash out on this year, but you can use that next year to kind of recoup some of that young depth that you need around LeBron. And then you get a lottery protected first round pick from 2027, which that's self-explanatory. If the Mavs aren't a lottery team by that time, you get another first round draft pick. And if the Mavs end up being a lottery team, which you never know with injuries, they get to keep that pick. So in this trade, both teams win. The Mavs upgrade from Christian Wood to AD, and they have better contention hopes. So their contending hopes get a little better. AD at his max, AD when he's healthy, can really take some of that load off of Luka, especially in that pick and roll. And then the Lakers get some depth. They get some young guys. They get some picks. If you ask me, the Mavs most likely would need a little bit more. Maybe they might need a Alani. They might need a Patrick Beverly. They might need a little bit more to get this trade to get pushed through. But I feel like this mock trade in its basic form makes sense for both teams. It does make sense for both teams. So yeah, man, that's my take on the AD situation. Hopefully the Lakers could get it turned around, which we know they won't, but they need to make some changes to that roster, man. Even if you get rid of AD and Russell Westbrook, that's what's going to have to happen. But those people saying to trade LeBron, I feel like it's idiotic. You don't trade LeBron. He's still even how he's playing now, he's still a top 10 player in this league. I believe he's a top 5 player in this league when he plays at his best and when he's available. But that's going to be it for me, man, for today. That's the Lakers. That's my take on the Lakers right now. And that's my take on what's going on with AD. I know I've been gone for a while. I haven't been consistent. Everyone got a life, but we're going to be doing this all the time, bro. I want to be able to do a couple of uploads every week. Y'all should look out for that from me. And yeah, man, that's it. This is Armani from the Hoop Objective, and we out. Peace.